Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little zipper bracelet. I have seen zipper bracelets many times before. They've been around for a while, but I thought that I wanted to make mine a little bit more fancy, a little blingy, so I used a little box chain on it. I also wanted to have the zipper actually function, and a lot of these bracelets, see mine functions, a lot of these bracelets, they use the pull tab for the clasping element to put the lobster claw on, and when you do that it's really cute, but the zipper no longer functions, and I wanted to be able to open mine all the way if I wanted to. I want to be able to put my pull tab either here or in between like this, or perhaps even close it all the way like so and wear it like this, or halfway, which is my favorite. I like it halfway like this. So anyway, that's what we're going to make today. This is another one I made last night, so you can see you can do it in different colors. And let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to do this bracelet today. Okay, so what I'm going to use for my project today is I'm going to use some 4mm box chain, crystal box chain. This is just crystals inside the box with the little sliders between to hold it together. Little box chain, and how much you use will be dependent upon how long your bracelet is. I would say make sure you have at least 14 inches if you're an average size person. If you're larger, have about 16 inches available to use. And then I'm going to try to use a toggle clasp on this one instead of a lobster claw like I did on my last one, because I am going to try to match a little bit of my metal toning here. I'm going to use both silver and gold metal tone, and since I do not have a lobster claw in gold, I'm going to use a toggle clasp. If I cannot make my design work with that, then I'll use a lobster claw. Either one will work so far, and so go ahead and have either available if you would like. Then I'm going to use several jump rings. I'm going to use 2 large heavy gauge jump rings for the ends of my clasping to make sure that they are nice and strong. And then I'm going to use a couple of smaller jump rings to connect some of the other elements to my bracelet. So just have a little variety of jump rings. 8mm, 6mm, 4mm, that will work. I may jump down from a 6mm here to a 4mm. So just a few different sizes, and of course you'll see what you need for your own project and you can adjust that. There's nothing that you can't change on this project. It's pretty versatile. Then you're going to need some bracelet ends or braid ends. I have or cord ends, whatever you want to call them, the kind that open like a book, and then you can squish down with the little teeth. This one is about 1/2 inch wide this way, and it's about 6mm this way. So 1/2 inch long and 6mm wide. Or let's see, I think it's 16mm long. So you'll need one of those and 2 of these little ones, the same exact thing except for they are 6mm wide, and I think about 1/4 inch if you want to go by inches. So 2 of the little ones, 1 of the big one, and then I'm going to use a bead just to put on as a dangle on my this part of the zipper here, on the little pull tab of the zipper. I'm going to use that, maybe this little crystal Swarovski element and a crystal, so to make a dangle with, and then I will be using a head pin with that too. Then you will need to have a zipper, And this zipper is 7 inches long. It's a jean zipper. It's a heavy zipper because I wanted the metal teeth. The metal teeth show up better than if you get one like this that doesn't have the metal teeth in the middle. This is something I started, and then it was kind of cute. I had it clasped and stuff. However, you don't really see that it's a zipper unless you open it, and I suppose you could do that. But anyway, if you get a zipper with metal teeth, it shows up better and looks more like a zipper. So I'm going to be using that. I'm going to use a size 10 beading needle, and I have it in short and long, and we'll see which one I decide to use. The short just seems too short to me, but it may be easier to handle. And then I'm going to use some Fireline, and I'm going to use Smoke Fireline. And this one is supposed to, this is an ultra carrier. This is a new type that's supposed to be a lot stronger, more fray resistant and all that. And so I'm going to use this today in 8-pound. So and you'll need a little bit of glue. You'll need a lighter. You will need some cutters, some straight nose and flat nose or flat nose pliers, and some scissors. And that should be what we need today. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get a ruler and measure my zipper to 6 inches. I've got a white pencil because I'm using a black background on my zipper here. So I want to mark it right at 6 inches. And then I'll turn it this way and mark it just to keep it even. That will allow me an inch to work with in my clasping so that my bracelet is the right size. So I'm going to mark that there. And then I am going to get my wire cutters and my scissors, and I'm going to attempt to cut this nice and neatly. And I'm going to cut the material like this up to the zipper and turn it to the other side, and then cut the material to the zipper. Now, if you have a zipper that's small enough, then all you'll have to do is just cut off this extra material on the end, and then you can proceed from there. But if your zipper is too big, then you have to do this. I couldn't find a smaller one. Of course, I was shopping at Walmart. It wasn't anywhere that had a great selection. Now I'm taking my wire cutters and I'm just going to try to cut between the teeth on the zipper here and separate this. And I'm just doing it as gently as I can here. I've got the teeth apart, now I've got to separate the material. There. Now I'm going to take my lighter and just kind of melt down these frays here just to keep it from falling apart as I work with it. Don't light it on fire, just melt the threads down in so that they stop fraying and hold your seam better. Now, hopefully yours is not a material that's flammable to the point to where it goes up like crazy. All the zippers that I've had so far, it works fine. Then again, like I said, I don't know what material you may be working with, but this works fine to keep the fraying. And I'm going to use it several times to do that. Then I'm going to pick up one of these little guys here, the long one in our materials here, and I'm going to slide it onto my zipper and center it on the zipper. Okay, then I'm going to grab a little bit of my glue, and I'm just using crazy glue, and it's pretty crazy, it's a mess. And I'm just going to put a little bit inside my component here. Put the lid on my glue, or I will have a gigantic mess. And just a little bit, and then I'm going to slide it on to my zipper and center it. and then I'm going to squeeze it into place. I'm going to squeeze it on one side of the zipper, and it wants to move everywhere, so just be patient and work with it. Then squeeze one side, and then I'm going to squeeze the other side. And then I'm going to squeeze right over the teeth. And I didn't get mine completely down all the way into the fold of the component here, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to let that glue set for a couple minutes, and then I'll come back and work the next step. Okay, so now my end is really secure. So I am going to now take my ruler, and I'm going to lay it on the inside. Well, actually, I'm just going to put it right here on the inside of my clasp there, or of my end. And this wants to lay out funny, so let's make sure it's zipped up. It's alright. It's going to flare out a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to go on the inside here, and I'm just going to accommodate for that flare by moving my ruler out just a little bit on that end, and I'm going to draw myself a line. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to give yourself somewhat of a guide here. So now I have a little bit of a line that I can see when I go to cut this. I can darken it a little if I want. This pencil isn't the best in the world, but it's working for my purposes. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just lay my ruler just to the inside of that clasp, or the end, the cord end, and then I'm going to draw myself another little line. And then, to give myself more of a guide, since these are flared out, I'm going to put my little ends up here first. But I want to cut this down just to the end of the zipper. So I'm right at where the zipper end is. Let's open this a little bit. And I'm just cutting just barely above it. And I'm going to cut straight across. Then I'm going to take my lighter and again just bind that end with it gently. And if you get too carried away, you'll shorten it a lot, so be careful. And then cut the other side. Also, just slightly above the end of the zipper. And then again, seal it. If you notice, I'm not actually touching the flame to it, I'm just holding it next to it and letting the heat melt it down. And then I will grab my small end and I'll put it right over the top of the zipper, like so. Let's see. I want it to be in alignment with my bottom one. So yeah, I'm going to go right over the top of this little zipper here. And I will put a little glue inside there. So I found that it helps hold it a lot better. Otherwise they slip a little bit. I've just put a little bit of glue inside it. And then I'm going to go over the top of the very end of my clasp, or at the very end of the zipper, and then grab my pliers and squeeze it down. Now, because I am over the top of the zipper a little bit, it doesn't want to squeeze down flush. So just get it on there as firmly as you possibly can. That's pretty firm. I'll do it one more time. If you find that your little teeth aren't sinking in there really well, you can bend them down a little bit more with your pliers like so, so that they dig into the material a little bit better. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So go ahead and put the other side on, and we'll be back. Now I have both of my ends on here, and now I'm going to cut this material down. I'm going to start at the end of this top one here, and then I'm just going to kind of curve in and follow my line. Just cut slowly so that it stays as straight as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but as close as you can get it. And then you have to curve out as you get to the end, and then pop that off like so. Now we're going to take our lighter again and seal this edge. Now if you need to correct it a little bit. However, your lighter can also correct it somewhat for you. I have a little whiter here. And like I said, this isn't going to be perfect. And the bottom I curved in a little much, but it's going to be okay. I'm just going to gently seal this end up like so. I hope I'm in camera. Doing these odd things other than just beading is a little bit difficult for me to stay in camera. Now, it's not perfect. I could line it up a little bit better. But, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's a little better. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I think I'll start with this end so that, let me back off a little bit, so that I can curve in a little bit nicer than I did on the other side. Yeah, that one turned out better. So now I'm going to seal it. Now that side's much better. Once you do one or two of these, then you kind of get it down. I just threw one together really late last night to see if I was going to like the design. And so it's definitely still in the works of trying to perfect it here. Now I'm going to take my box chain and I'm going to lay it out on my bracelet, and I'm going to stretch it out because they have a tendency to kind of squish together these little box chains. So make sure it's stretched out all the way, and then cut it off at the length that you need. I'm just going to use my wire cutters and I'm just going to cut real close to that top rhinestone, and then I'm going to make sure it's the length I want, and then I will lay out my chain and cut another one the same length. Because you can count the units to make sure it's the same, or you can just lay it side by side. And I will cut this one close to this rhinestone here. Now I'm going to thread my needle with my Fireline, and I will be back and we'll start sewing this on here. Okay, so I have threaded onto my needle about a yard of thread, which may be a little long, but I can always use it for the other side too, so I'm not going to be wasting it. It's just going to be more to tangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom end here, and I'm going to come up through the bottom about in the middle here, real close to the middle between the teeth of the zipper and the end of the backing here, and I'm going to pull my thread through. And then I'm going to go back through again. I found this is the easiest way. If you just try to tie a knot on the back or try to tie a knot in your thread, it slips through this material on the zipper here. So go back through, turn it over, and tie a knot with the long thread and the tail of your thread that you left on the other side. And tie a couple of knots. You can even tie a surgeon's knot, go under it a couple of times. And pull. Then I'm just going to trim this a little bit. I'm going to leave it long, but I'm going to trim it a little bit so it's not in my way. And then I'm going to come back through my zipper. Then I'm going to take my first unit here and lay it on my piece, and I'm going to hold on to it, and I'm going to go around it. So I'm going to go over the top of it, and I'm just going to secure this first one. And make sure that your thread doesn't fall in the prongs that is holding the rhinestone. And you want to get it pretty much over to the edge of your piece, like so. Then you're coming out of the back, go around the side of your zipper and go back down around the little divider in between the rhinestones. Get real close to the stone and pull your thread. We're going to do that twice. Let me get you closer so you can see what I'm doing. So now I'm coming out of the back here. I'm going to go over the side of my material on my zipper and back right next to the divider here, real close to the stone, and loop around it. This will bind my edge as well as secure my rhinestones. Now I've finished that one. I'm going to go over to underneath the piece, and I'm going to bring my needle up close to the next rhinestone. I'm going to pull the other rhinestones down. You see how I'm holding it? Pull it down so that these stretch out as we're doing this and they're not bunched. Now I'm real close to this stone. I'm going to go around the edge and come back up right in the front here, right next to where I started. Make sure that your thread doesn't get caught around your piece, and bring it up and around. the one I made last night, I wasn't real neat with my stitches, so I'm trying to be neater. If you put 2 stitches real close to the rhinestone, it should secure it and you shouldn't see it so much. Come back around, come back up through right next to your first or your second rhinestone here, right where you put your first stitch, next to this one right here, and do it again. Then you're going to come down, hold your next rhinestone, spread it out, and come down next to, or come through on the inside next to the next stone. Your thread should wrap around the first stone on the side you were on, or on the first side you were on, it's the same stone, but like so. So it goes down right next to my rhinestone, and then you don't really see it. Now I'm going to go back around the edge and back up through where I started to put my first stitch in on this side of this stone. Now I'm going to go back around and come out real close to the other side of the stone. And again, go around the edge, come back through like so, back off just a little. Watch your thread because it's going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Make sure it doesn't fall into the prongs as you pull it through. And that's the bad part of starting out with a really long thread, but it is what it is. Then I'm going to reinforce that stitch again. Go around the edge, and bring it down. And then I'll stretch out the next stone. Don't worry about your edging because we can cut that, we can burn it down, we can do all kinds of stuff to even it out. Just stay real straight with your stones, or as straight as you can, as close to the edge as you can. Come up next to the next side of the stone. Go around it. Come back through. And you're just going to continue sewing these stones on just like this until you get all the way to the end. Once you've secured it twice, pop over the edge, or go over and go under and come up through next to your next stone. Guide your thread so that it goes down close to the stone. It's going to cross over a little bit because we're moving over to our thread over to the other side of the divider here. Then I'm going to come back through. And we're just going to continue doing that all the way down. Make sure you stretch each stone out as you do it so that there's no slack in between them, and continue to secure them all the way to the very end. Now if you want your stones closer to your zipper, which I did on my other one, I had them very close, then you cut your side a little bit closer. But I decided on this one I wanted to make it a little bit wider just because I think it would be a little bit more secure on my ends. As you can see, my ends were a little bit further inside and it's kind of fraying, so I decided that I wanted to make it a little wider. However, if you like the look of it being closer, you can always cut your side a little bit closer. So go ahead and continue securing your stones, and we'll be back when we get to the very end. Okay, so as you can see, I finished my end, and as you can also see, it starts to kind of curve because as I sewed on my rhinestones, I stretched them out so that it would kind of curve into a bracelet shape. So now I'm all the way to the end here. I actually could have gone one more rhinestone, but that's okay. I'm fine with it. So I'm going to come back up through, I've secured all the way to here. I'm going to come back up through the side on this one. And then I'm going to turn it over, wrap it around, and I'm going to go under some of the existing threads here with my needle. And through a little bit of the material, that's fine too, it doesn't matter. And pull my needle through. If I can get a hold of it, we will. And then I'm going to go through the loop, tie a knot. Do that a couple of times. And my stitching isn't gorgeous. I'm not a very good sewer. I'm just kind of a sloppy sewer. I try not to be, but it's not my forte. So, after you do that a couple of times, you feel secure with it, go ahead and cut it off, burn it down. And if you have a thread zapper, that'll probably work just fine with this too. I don't know that you could burn the edges or anything, but I just don't use thread zapper because I always forget to buy one. Alright, so this is what I have so far. Now what I'm going to do with this very last one on the edge here, I'm going to bring my zipper down so I don't mess it up. And I'm going to grab my super glue and put just a little dot underneath this last rhinestone so it doesn't lift. So I'm just going to put a little tiny dot right on the back of that rhinestone, right there. And I'm going to push it down. I'll let that dry, and then I will put more thread on my needle if needed. If you have enough on your needle already, go ahead and start the other side exactly like you did this side. Get your piece of box chain that you cut, anchor it on, tie your knot first, and then anchor it on, sew it all the way up the edge, and we will be back. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished my second side of putting on my box chain exactly the same way that I did the first side. I tied it off the same way, and I went ahead and put a drop of glue under the very first rhinestone so it doesn't move around. And then on this side, I put a drop of glue on both of these. If you get it on your end piece a little bit, then you can just scrape it off after it dries. It'll come off. I just used the end of my tweezers and scraped it off. Now we're going to do this end. Now this end is going to be a little bit different than I had originally told you I was going to put this clasp on because I wanted to incorporate the gold. However, the clasping is not going to work with the toggle on this one because of the wide jump rings I have to use to hold this together. Now you can see these are kind of aimed out a little bit. It's a heavier zipper than I used on this one, and so it's not as flexible, and the ends don't move the way they do on this one. So I am going, also I put my little clasps down a little bit, or my little ends down a little bit too far for this particular zipper. I did the same on that one, but on the next one I think I would go above it so I can draw it together a little better. However, what I'm going to do to put this together is I'm going to use a lobster claw clasp, a fairly large one, just like I did on this one. That'll give more room for the toggle, or for the clasp to work. With a toggle, you have to have room for it to go up through, and with a large jump ring on the end of it, it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an 8mm round jump ring, and it's gold tone, and I'm going to slide it through one end on my zipper end here, my pull tab end, and then I'm going to close it. Make sure you open them from side to side, twist them open. I'll show you on the second one since I didn't bother to show you. And then when you go to close them, kind of shake it back and forth until you get it nice and tightly closed, like so. Now, I grab another one. I'm going to grab a hold of it. These are soft enough, though they're heavy enough gauge to hold this. You want a heavy gauge that I can open it with my fingers, but if you want to use your pliers, just grab on either side of the opening of the jump ring and twist. And then go put it into your loop and then twist it back closed. Do a little shaking back and forth just to make sure that it's closed tightly. Plus the shaking motion helps harden the wire a little bit. And then I'm going to grab a large jump ring. Now these all need to be pretty heavy gauge. This one's really heavy gauge so that it's nice and strong. Now I'm going to go through this jump ring and through this jump ring like so. And then I am going to put on my clasp. Just slide it on there. Then I'm going to grab my other pliers and I'm going to close this jump ring. Now with all this stuff on here, it's a little tricky, but it can be done. So and close it, make sure it's tight, and that is what that looks like, except for the fact that I put it on upside down. I want this part to be the other way, so the opening I want to go down towards the desk here instead of up, so I'm going to do that again. So make sure when you put it on the proper way, or it'll be difficult for you to clasp. You can go up underneath the other side and clasp it, but it doesn't work as easily for your hand to manipulate. So I'm going to open this and turn this over and slide it back on. And close it again. Just because I didn't bore you enough the first time with it. Okay. Now, when I go to clasp it, see this little lever or however you want to call it will be out here, and I can grab it with my thumb. Otherwise, if it's underneath, it's more difficult to handle. Now I'm going to grab another heavy gauge silver jump ring and I'm going to open it, and I'm just going to slide it onto this side. You can put a couple links here if you need to, if your bracelet is too short or whatever. And this is how we will clasp this. Let me shut this a little better. That's how that works. And you can put two on so that the ring is a little bit better position to clasp if you would like. This does not want to close well. And I may do that. I have to see if I need another one. But at this point, I am going to go ahead and make my little end to put on here. Now you can put little charms on here too. Like you could open a jump ring and slide a little charm on either end. I think I'll do that on this end. That's a yucky jump ring. I don't like it. Let me get another one. Okay. And see if I can find a little charm. I have this little charm here, so I don't even need that jump ring. It's got one on it. I have this little charm. I'm just going to open this jump ring and I will slide it on this one here. Or actually, I think I will slide it over here next to this. No, I want it on this side. Okay. If it gets in the way of clasping, you can always switch it over to one of these rings or something too. So that's what that looks like. And then I I could grab another one of those and just put it on here, but I'd like to make something a little bit bolder and incorporate a little bit more gold color. So I'm going to grab this bead. I'm going to see if my head pin, I'm going to grab my head pin, make sure that it doesn't slide through, and it doesn't. So then I'm going to go ahead and slide that bead on there. And let's see, maybe I'll put my crystal on first. I'm going to grab my crystal, put it on first, and then I'm going to put my bead on. And then I'm going to bend this over right on top of the bead, like so. Then I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm just going to cut maybe not quite a quarter of an inch, about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Just a little bit of room so that you can roll a loop. So I'm not going to make a large loop, so I'm just going to cut it there. And then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, which I didn't tell you we would need. We do need. And I'm going to go to the very end of this loop, and I'm going to roll an open loop, like so. Now I've tucked that down inside my bead so it's not all that open. If yours comes out a little bit further than mine, you can just open it and close it. But since I have it this way and it's going to be more secure if I just leave that alone, I'm going to go ahead and grab a jump ring. Let me open this one. I'm going to use the one that has my little dangle on it. Because it's a really strong one, so I like to make sure everything is going to stay together. I slide that on there, and then I'm going to slide this on my tab here, my zipper, pull tab, whatever you want to call it, and close it. Okay, let me get everything out of the way here. And that's what this looks like. Now, you can clasp this, and I'll show you this on my wrist in a minute. I'm going to put it on off camera because lobster claw clasps are hard for me to manipulate on my own wrist. So, I don't know if I like that on there. Let me push that on the other side. There we go. And this is what you have, and you can go ahead and open it a little bit. Like this, and wear it like that. You can open it all the way if you want. This zipper isn't a very flowing zipper. You can open it all the way and wear it like this. I like to just do it about halfway, like this. And then I will put this on, and I will be back and show you what it looks like. Back off a little bit here so you can see it. There's our clasping. Okay, let me go away. Okay, and this is what it looks like on. And as you can see, I've opened my zipper a little bit because I think it being half open or even all the way open just gives it a little bit more style. Plus, there's a little less tension over here on my jump rings now because there's play in it. And I think it's really cute. Here's the clasping. That's what that looks like. And then this one that I made last night, it's a little bit bigger bracelet. That's why I cut this one down a little bit shorter. I cut this one last night, but not quite enough. My stitching on this isn't quite as pretty. I would have used, if I had it to do over again, I would have used a tan thread so you wouldn't see it as much. I used just a regular white Fireline. With this project, you could probably use a nice strong nylon thread and a regular sewing needle to do this. You don't necessarily have to have a beading needle and Fireline or nanofill or whatever, you could use just a nice, really strong thread, and it would work just fine. And that way you can pick whatever color you want. So whatever color your backing is for your zipper, you could match it in a little bit better. And that's what this looks like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye-bye.